Hello, how are you guys? Thank you for joining me tonight. So hopefully, uh, my lighting is good and you can see me. So I'm not good with this technology stuff, but I went ahead and purchased like one of these little fancy light things that I hope is working. Um, I was trying to find I was trying to find a way to pin the topic of today to to my live, but I cannot see it. So, but at any rate, sorry, I'm touching stuff. Um, At any rate, hello. My name is Tanisha Johnson. I am the founder of TJ Self Care and your codependency expert. So, this evening or nighttime for my Eastern followers, I wanted to do a video just really to discuss my book and hey, just really to discuss my book and the topic that I'm going to do an IG video on this week. So after the poll, it was made clear that people really want to talk about codependency. So I love codependency. I love the topic of codependency. So that was like really, really good news to me. So, and we're also going to touch on depression, mainly because my book is entitled When Anxiety and Depression Have a Voice. Hi, thank you for those that are joining. So my book is entitled When Anxiety and Depression Have a Voice. So I am going to touch a little bit on depression just with telling you about my book. So let me start running my mouth and tell you about my book. So my book should be out for purchase by January 2020. It may even be December. I'm crossing my fingers for December, but just in case, I know for sure it'll be out January 2020. And the book is entitled When Anxiety and Depression Have a Voice. It is about 9 chapters of me kind of really disclosing how I came up with the realization that I was a codependent, my journey through that process, and also my diagnosis of depression. So I wasn't much younger, I should say, but I was 29 when I found out that I was diagnosed with depression, and I'm 35 right now. So I'm kind of putting you guys in that pinpoint of my life when I had all those things going on. Some things that I wanted to touch on in the live were codependency. And because a lot of people wanted to talk about codependency and talk about more about what it is, I thought that it would be a good thing for us to go through tonight. Just the basis of it, because codependency is really in depth, but I wanted to go over the basic signs. So I feel all special because I really like plan, organize for y'all. Okay, see, your girl is getting better. So I have like my little PowerPoint and all that good stuff. So just generally, what is codependency? So codependency is when you feel like you have to take care of other people and support other people, and you have like this unexplainable urge to do it. Even in times where you may not be able to do it, time-wise, resource-wise, financially wise, maybe even just mentally, like not feeling like you have the capacity to do it. When you are codependent, you feel drawn to helping people regardless of what your situation is. You just want to help people. So I know this is a very generic version because that's how I felt when I heard it. Hey, how are you? That's how I felt when I heard the word codependency. So I thought I would kind of give you guys just a general listing of what it is. So here are some signs that you may be codependent if you struggle with some of these things. So I wrote down a list of 13. Hey, hey, Corn, a list of 13 things. So a codependent person is controlled by other people's behavior around them. They constantly are thinking if only they could help this person with this one thing, this person will be able to take care of their needs. Codependents are caretakers. They tend to have poor communication and they struggle with setting boundaries. They feel responsible for other people's needs. They say yes when they want to say no. They blame themselves when they're unable to help other people. They are afraid to be alone. They try to control events and people. They deny their problems and act as if they do not exist. And they stay in abusive relationships. So those are some traits of codependency. So to make it even more clear, so there are like 3 internal thought processes that a codependent carries with them. So one is they must never ask for their needs or try to get their needs met because they're either wrong, they're bad for wanting to get their needs met, or they feel they are a burden to others. They also feel like saying no to others makes them selfish, or it makes people not want to be around them or love them. They also feel like they can fix other people. They feel like they are the ones who can make everything better for everybody, and they know how to make other people happy. So that is the internal process for a codependent person. So some of these things, not everyone struggles with codependency. I just want to say that for number one. But when you feel like you are struggling to say no, when you are doing things that you really don't want to do for other people, and the number one thing that I always encourage people to think about is if you are having thoughts in your mind about what your life would be like if you were not taking care of this person or this thing, and how better your life would be if you didn't have to do it, then that is a sign that you're overdoing. And if you're having those thoughts on a regular basis and they are triggering you to overdo for people, enable people, and enable means we help people that really can help themselves. So that's what enable means. So if you are having feelings that make you do any of those things, then you may want to consider, whether or not you are codependent. So I want to say that being a codependent is not a death sentence. When I first was told that I was codependent, that's how I felt. So I don't want to give too much away, but because you guys are my Instagram family, I want to share a little bit about the book with you. So I take you through my story and my journey of realizing that I was a codependent. So I was, I was 29, and my church was doing like a Celebrate Recovery group for our community, where we help people with their problems and issues and, direct them towards having peace, through religious beliefs, right? That's pretty much what the Celebrate Recovery program was about. Completing certain steps. It was a 12-step program, and within the 12 steps, it was teaching people how to have a different life free from their addictions or harmful behavior through the Word of God. So that's what we were doing. And I was all for it, but I was all for it to be a facilitator, to not to actually participate in the group myself. But when I realized I was codependent, I found myself really having to step back and identify, okay, what exactly are my needs at this time? And if I'm a codependent person, what does that mean for my life? Because I had a lot of fear around being codependent, like anybody, because we don't know what it means. When we don't know what things mean, we do have fear, around it. So I had a lot of fear around what exactly does it mean, for me to be a codependent. And through that process, I also found out that I struggled with depression and anxiety. And within a codependent, so let me just go back. So when you do identify with being a codependent and you get tired of being tired, as I always say, there's this self-awareness that kind of overpowers you. And it makes you feel like you don't know who you are. You don't know your next steps. And it can make you dread the life that you are living. So that, in a nutshell, was my situation. I didn't know how much codependency had impacted my life until it was already too late. That's how it felt, at least. And I saw myself surrounded by all these people who were using me and abusing me emotionally, financially, verbally. And I had just kind of become numb to it because I had a high level of tolerance for people treating me badly. For some reason, I was just really, really addicted, I would say, to people treating me badly. I had friends, my intimate partners, family members who kind of felt like they could just say anything to me. I was the person that people call for money. I was the person that people call for their solutions. I was the problem fixer. Anyone sick in my family, I was the person running around trying to make sure they were okay. And I always had this feeling like, how come nobody's making sure I'm okay? How come nobody is like checking in on me? How come nobody is trying to make sure I have my needs met? I felt like it was just me. And what I didn't know is having those feelings were parallel with codependent ways. Because when you're codependent, you do tend to feel isolated and alone. And there's a reason for that, so a codependent feels isolated and alone because they have surrounded themselves by people who use them and abuse them. So I know your next question probably is, how does that happen? Well, that happens because when you are a codependent, you tend to not speak up for yourself. You have low self-esteem. You have low self-worth. I identify with all those things. That's where I was at. And so because of that, you tend to gravitate to people who do have a high self-esteem. They do have, they're able to verbalize their needs. But it's almost to the point where it's narcissistic. And so you find yourself surrounded by people who only think about themselves, who only think about what they need, and their goal in life is to get you to identify with their needs. So that is the definition of a narcissistic person. And that is the type of people that I was surrounded by. I was surrounded by narcissists who did not really care about me or my needs. It was all about them. So when I found that I was in that place, I was just stuck, and I feel like self-awareness was kind of like my breaking point, because when I became self-aware, it kind of gave me the platform to be able to advocate for myself and also be able to assess when I'm not feeling good. So for me, I struggled a lot with trying to know my own needs. I was so good at assessing other people that I didn't know how to assess my own needs. So I ended up struggling a lot with that, trying to figure out, okay, who am I? What do I want? You know, I was like 29 years old going on 30, and I didn't even know like what I wanted in life. All my goals were surrounded by other people. You know, I'm doing this because, you know, I have this job because I have to have a good paying job because that's what my mom said, that I need to have a good paying job. Or I'm dating this guy because he seems nice and everybody likes him, so I'm going to date him. Or, you know, I'm wearing these clothes because I was told that these colors look good on me, so I'm going to wear these clothes. Or, you know, I'm wearing this sweater or whatever because I'm told I was big and I shouldn't wear, off the shoulder sweaters. Just all these crazy things, right? But those things have been programmed in me from a child. And so in turn, I was living my life in that condition, not really knowing what I wanted, what I needed, not knowing the steps that I needed to take to move forward in life. I was kind of just going with the flow of what I thought everyone else wanted me to do. And when I found that I was living that life, I had like hit rock bottom. And I take you through that journey in my book. I didn't want to get up. Forget not wanted to get up. How about I couldn't get up? I literally felt like I couldn't get out of the bed. Literally. In the morning, like going to work was a process. I would have to set my alarm clock like an hour ahead for me to just get out of the bed. Like I had to talk myself out of the bed. That's how bad like my depression was, you know. I really didn't care what I had on. I remember, I tell a funny story in my book, and I'm so happy I can laugh now because as I was writing it, I was crying because I was remembering how bad it was. And I literally had a period in my life where, like, when I finally realized that I was codependent and that I had been controlled by narcissist people, I got so depressed that, like, not only could I not get out the bed, but when I did get out the bed, I didn't care what my hair looked like. I didn't care what, like, my clothes looked like. And I remember one morning, I literally, like, put on 2 different pairs of shoes and walked out the door and got in my car to go to work. And I remember, like, when I got to work, my coworker, she kept looking down. And I was like, why is she looking down at my feet, right? Like, I'm thinking she's the crazy one. And I went to the bathroom and I looked and I was like, oh my God, I literally had on, they were the same type of shoe, luckily. You know, I used to wear like these little flat, like, you know, like that, what they call them, like baby, like old school term is like baby doll shoes, you know. Like I used to wear these little flat, like baby doll shoes that were really comfortable, where one was black and one was blue. And I was at work and I was like, oh shit, like, what am I going to do? And the sad thing about it was that I was literally just so happy to be at work on time that I just let it go. And I remember, you know, that's where I was at, you know, struggling to get out the bed, struggling to match my clothes, struggling to just do anything. I didn't want to go anywhere with anyone. I didn't want to do anything. People would text me and call me, and I would just like look at my phone. Like I didn't want to answer the phone. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I had just, so when I realized that I was codependent, I just kind of went through this whirlwind where I literally felt like I was going crazy. I had labeled that every single friend that I had was a narcissist. I had told myself that my parents were narcissists, which that was true, actually. But I had just said that everyone was a narcissist. And so I didn't answer my phone because I was like, this is another person who wants me to do something for them, who's only focused on their needs and not mine. And they're not a genuine friend. So that's the process that I take you guys through in my book. I really kept it very honest and transparent. And I did that because, I mean, for one, I'm just a transparent person. You know, I really try to be honest. And then two, I just felt like I'm so happy that I'm not in that place no more and that I overcame it, that I don't have any emotional attachment to my story anymore. But I thought it was important for me to do this live because I wanted everyone to know that my book is coming out in January. And if you are a codependent and you do have some signs of it, you know, based on what we talked about tonight, I want you to know that it's okay. You know, it's there's a lot of resources now for codependents. There's groups. I give a big shout out to going to therapy. Therapy is a big one. Therapy literally helped me rewire my brain so that I could really think about me for a chance. Where can I buy a copy of it? So I will be doing pre-orders next month. I'll be doing pre-orders next month, and it should be available like on Amazon and Kindle and all over by January. But I'm going to start doing pre-orders. But yeah, you know, there's so many resources, you know, for codependents. And my biggest thing is I really want to build community. You know, I want my page to be a community where people feel like they can come and get inspirational messages. They can see videos that can help them get through their next day. And most importantly, that they are surrounded by people who can support them on this journey of getting better. You know, when I went through my journey, I did everything. I did therapy. I did groups. One thing I will say about the groups is I tried about 4 different groups because, you know, I mean, I'll be honest, you know, we live in a world, right, where even though race shouldn't matter, it matters. So one thing I will say about groups is don't turn away from groups if you don't see people that look like you. So I went to 5 different groups, and in all 5 groups, there was no one that looked like me. And at first, I was like really, really bothered by it, you know, because I'm like, you know, it's important to me to always be around, you know, around people that look like me, you know, I'm keeping it real, right? I wanted to know that there were other like African-American, you know, people out there getting healing besides just me. And I knew that they were, right? But I wondered why they weren't taking advantage of this space because 12-step books and everything else was like, it was like a whole new world. I mean, it opened up a world where I felt safe to set a boundary. I understood for once why I needed to set a boundary. I think that's so important, you know, and I show that in my book, how I didn't even know what a boundary was. Because for me, boundaries were selfish. That was a message that I had told myself. I had told myself that people need my help. People need me to be there. When problems arise, I need to be there to support my family and my friends. So the idea of having boundaries, you know, it felt like it was selfish to me. So I didn't even know what a boundary was, you know, but it's in those groups is when I learned what a boundary is, how to, when it's time to establish a boundary, and how to do it. And so I just really push that, you know, if you do feel like you may struggle with codependency, I'm telling you, like, groups are amazing work. It helps you build community. You network with people who are like you. And I want to share why that's important. So the reason why I'm talking about community and networking is because you have to remember that when you live as a codependent person has dependent people in their life. That's the only way you can be codependent. And the people in your life that you have been emotionally, physically, financially, or all three taken care of, when you start to turn and morph into this new person that loves themselves, that has boundaries, that values their self enough to say no, they're not gonna like that. And what I found in my journey is you have to really be strong. And there were days I didn't have the energy. There were days that I was getting verbally abused, emotionally abused by relatives, all because I was trying to set a boundary for myself. And what I found was, because I had those communities, when I didn't feel loved from my family or my friends that couldn't handle the new Tanisha, I had a place to go. I had a place to go in the groups. I had people to text, to call, to lean on. Here I go again. I feel myself getting emotional. I cried on my last live. I'm not crying on this one. I'm not going to mess up my makeup. But it was just a really hard time in my life. And when I had that community, it made me feel loved. They reminded me that I needed to keep doing this for me. I needed to keep the boundary for me. I needed to continue to say no for me. There were times where I had to, leave my home because it had became this toxic environment. And it always was a toxic environment, right? But back to the self-awareness that we talked about earlier, because I had more self-awareness, I was actually able to see how I was living and things that I was putting up with. So in one way, for me, as a recovering codependent, when I was in my codependency, a lot of the ways that I coped with my situation is I denied it. I overate. I ate a lot, gained a lot of weight, and I didn't say anything because standing up for myself was not safe. So I found passive-aggressive ways to get my needs met or do things for me. And what I had to learn through therapy and also through the 12-step group was that I have a voice. And what I say matters. And if someone can't accept that, then that's not my issue, that's their issue. And I need to find a way to disattach myself in order for me to continue to recover and strive. So, in a nutshell, that is what my book is about. I want to do more lives, more topics. I really like the fact that you guys are interested in codependency because I love talking about it, and it connects a lot with my book. So I'm hoping that this book can really be an eye-opener. For a lot of people, it can be just a healing guide for a lot of people. My main thing is I want everyone to know that you're not alone, that you are important. You do have a voice. Setting boundaries with our family and loved ones, co-workers, whoever, it is a requirement. When we do not feel like doing something, we should not feel pushed to do it just because someone else wants us to do it. Like we shouldn't feel that way. I lost years. Sometimes just thinking about it still brings tears. I lost years of my life. By the time I really woke up and saw the condition I was in, I was 30 years old. And, I'm 35 now, and I'm still working. 5 years later, I'm still working hard, but I continue to press forth towards the mark because I'm determined to live for myself, to do for myself, to do things that I want to do, not always feeling like I have to be there like for other people all the time, even when I'm exhausted. So, and that's really the message that I get across in my book, that people who identify as codependent or people pleasers, It's time for us to stand up and live for us. Because I'm telling you, the people that I was taking care of, as soon as I stopped taking care of them, they were fine. In my book, I tell you about I had a cousin that he was asking me for money every other month, and I was just giving it. Why? Because he was my cousin, because I loved him, because, good night. Because he was my cousin, because I loved him, and I felt like he needed it. And, when I look back at how, just how exhausted I used to be being there for him, I just shake my head, and I'm so happy that I'm not in that place anymore. And so that's the main message that I get across in my book, that, we should be doing things that we want to do for ourselves. I shared in my last live video that my dad died 2 months ago. He had 2 strokes. The first stroke, he was okay. The second stroke, it took him out. And one thing that I learned from that is life is short. And I don't need from others to be. No, we don't need validation from others in order to be their friend. Yeah, thank you. That is so true. But one thing I learned from my dad passing away was that I have an obligation to myself to live my life the way I want to live it and do things that I want to do. And I encourage that in this book, and I always encourage it on all my lives. So my motto that I live by now is no one is more important than you. No one. Not your children, not your spouse, not family, no one. Because in order for all those people to be okay, you first need to be okay. And if you're not okay, then none of them are going to get their needs met. Therefore, no one is more important than you. And we should not be overextending ourselves for the sake of other people's feelings or validation from other people. So I hope you have enjoyed this live. I'm going to do this more often. I wanted to know, thank you guys for coming on tonight. Are there any questions about codependency or anything that we touched on? I'm not good at leaving room for questions. So, and again, for those who are joining now, welcome. We are discussing my up and coming book that's titled When Anxiety and Depression Have a Voice. And I am going over briefly what codependency is and connecting it to my book. So that's what we're talking about tonight. All right. Well, if there are no questions, I want to say thank you for those who are joining. I will continue to update you guys on my book. It's in its final edits. Oh my God. Yes. So this is just a great moment for me. I'm super excited about it. You guys inspired me to write this book. So I started this page January 2017 because a friend of mine was like, Tanisha, you always say such inspirational things. Your journey through codependency, you learned so much. You should share it with the world. And of course, because I'm still struggling with my self-esteem. I'll say that. So because I was still struggling, I was like, don't nobody want to hear what I got to talk about. What are you talking about? Right? That was my frame of mind. Nobody wants to hear what I have to say. I just say these things to my friends to uplift them and encourage them. But because of you guys, I kept going, and I watched 20 followers turn into 100 followers, turn into 1,000 followers, and now it's 4,000 followers. And I just really want to thank you guys for liking my post, for commenting. Can't wait to read your book. Oh, thank you. I can't wait for you to read it too. But I just really want to thank you guys for commenting and liking my post and following my page. And I just want you guys to know that you inspire me too. You know, you inspire me to keep going. There are days that I get tired, you know, of quote unquote taking care of myself. You know, like I get tired. Like, God, do I have to set a boundary today? You know, do I have to do this today? But I'm like, yes, I do. Because not only do I have to do it for myself, but now I have to do it for my followers. I have to show them that I'm really in this, that I'm really living this life where I'm saying no to the BS and yes to me. You know, so thank you guys so much. I will keep you posted on my book. It is in final edit mode. I'm getting ready to pick covers. So I told my editor that my Instagram and my Facebook followers are like my family. So I'm currently working with the graphic designer to do two different graphics, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to show you guys that. So, and kind of help you, let you guys kind of help me pick, you know, which one I should use, you know. So, yeah, so I'm excited. So, if there are I saw a question, missed most of the video. Is there a way? Yes, so I'm going to end it right now, and then you can replay it. So thank you everyone for watching this video, and I will keep you posted. Have a great night. Bye.